My name is Rick Mannon, and I'm an inductee into the Brantford and Area Sports Hall of Recognition. I'm honored today to be interviewing Edith Hayman, who is also an inductee into the Sports Hall of Recognition. She was inducted in 1986. I'll just tell you a little bit about Edith. Edith has coached over 500 district, provincial, national, international, and Olympic champions and participants. She's established 107 camps over a span of 40 years for high performance, intermediate, and elementary level badminton players. Some of the awards that Edith has received, and there's a lot of them, she's received the Ontario Government Special Achievement Award for contributions to coach in 1987. Edith has received the Ontario Badminton Association Award for high performance in coaching achievement, the Olympic Commemorative Medal for Coach of the Year, also in 1987. She has been awarded the Ontario Teachers Federation Coaching Award, the Canada Coaching Award, and the World International Badminton Federation Award.
I saw badminton for the very first time in my grade 12 when I came down into the gym for some reason. I normally, I didn't take phys ed in grade 11 when they introduced badminton because I was taking German instead. So when I came down at the end of the season, it was April, the end of April, and I saw them on the court playing this game that I thought maybe I could play because I have only one hand, and that's like this. So I wasn't very good on the basketball team or the volleyball team or the baseball team. I really wasn't very good, and certainly I knew nothing about track and field at that time because that's a long time ago. Anyway, I did see this badminton taking place and I thought, I could play that. That's left-handed. I could play it left-handed. I would be okay with this. So that's what turned me on when I saw that it was something I could do and be an equal with everybody else.
Do you have any mentors, or did you have any mentors that have had an impact on your life, or your sport, or your career?
Well, my first mentor was Howard Cork from Brantford. He was one of the top players that happened to live in Brantford and play at the Y, where I took it up. And he told me how to hold my racket right. If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have held my racket in the correct manner. And as it turned out, because of that, I ended up being triple champion for Brantford, and I got really encouraged. But my other mentor was when I went to the Worlds in Sweden, and I learned all about the biomechanics of badminton. I would think that would be Dr. Waddell, or Dave Waddell, and he really helped me a lot with the pronation, supination, biomechanics of badminton. And then my coaching went straight up after that.
What are some of the highlights of your career?
Well, I have a lot of highlights. It's very difficult for me to choose. I have been honored by the World Federation, and I've been honored by Ontario. I'm in the Ontario Hall of Fame. I won the 3M Award, which is an award given to a female in an individual sport. Now that means that I beat out the skating coaches and the golf coaches and the curling coaches. I beat out everybody, and that was a real big thing to get a 3M award from Canada, for Canada. But my biggest, I think, achievement, if that we're talking about achievements, is the development of my manual, which is this one here for essentials, which I made so that the teachers could know how to coach the stroke properly. It's all done with the pictures and also the components of how a stroke is done so that it helps them. If you can read, you can teach badminton reading this book. And of course, it's all started with my producing 2 DVDs which is really good for teachers because it can be made to run in 4 different slow motion modes, which really helps you learn the biomechanics of how the stroke is done. And that really helps the teachers because they very often don't have a demonstrator who can do it right, whereas the DVD can show the kids the proper way to make a stroke.
That's fantastic. What made you transition into coaching?
Well, I was very upset with my never knowing anything about badminton until I was 18 years old. 18! My goodness, half the time world players are playing at the Olympics when they're 18. Anyway, I wanted every child to know about badminton and just have a little bit of basics, because I had never been given any basics. I learned by watching. And again, because of my hand, I had been watching since I was 2 years old how to do things. So by doing that, watching and watching and watching, I was able to learn how to do things. And I wanted now to teach the kids. My goal was to teach the kids so that make their school team, their university team, and their college team. To me, whether they win or not, that's up to them. At least I would give them their tools. And we did, because we have developed over 500 national, provincial, district, OFSA, and QUASA champions, plus quite a few other ones that have went to the world and to the Olympians. So that's what my goal was, and that's why I turned into being a coach, because I could see the components that needed to be done, and done correctly.
How did you and your husband Doug meet?
He lived next door. I think I was 14, he was 16, and we went with, I went with 3 girls, he went with 3 guys. We used to just gather at our house, and my mother and I would play the piano. Of course, we had no TV then. I would play the piano, we would sing, or we'd sit down and play cards. And of course, I fell in love with him. And I guess we got engaged when I was 18 and he was 20. And we got married when he was 23 and I was 21. And we've been married 6 years now.
And what would you say about your relationship with Doug? And I guess what has he done to help you in your...
Well, he was very supportive in badminton, and of course I went and bought him a badminton racket for his birthday. He had to learn how to play, and he did learn how to play, but I was playing a lot more than he was. So in the beginning I was beating him when he was 20 and I was 18. But then as he got stronger, and he started beating me. So, but he always, he was really quite a good player. He would be an Ontario top B plus or an A minus, but he didn't practice a lot because he had other things that he loved him in. But he understood my passion, and he was behind me all the way, all the time, all the time.
Great. What are you doing now to keep you busy?
Oh, what I'm doing now is working with the national coaches across Canada on revamping and re-editing the National Coaching Certification Program. So that keeps me pretty busy, as well as looking after my husband and myself. That takes all my time.
How did you manage your busy lifestyle, considering your career and all your other commitments? I
managed it through support of my family. My children were basically, when I was really getting into, they all made their high school and university teams. So they all knew about the badminton, and they were all for me, and they all helped out. I was gone sometimes for a week at a time, and then Dad took over. He was a good mother. And that helped. The whole family just came together to help me. I mean, I'm very blessed in that they understood my passion, and I think they understood it because with having just one hand, my passion was that I finally could do something that, you know, that equaled anybody that with two hands. So I think that was my passion too, was to prove that I was still able to perform.
What do you think of the future of badminton in this area?
Well, I am very pleased because as a master course conductor for Canada, and I'm in charge of all the coaches across Canada, I always had my top students become coaches. So our club in Brantford has more coaches than any other club in Canada, even the big posh clubs. They usually only have 2 paid coaches. I have maybe 10 unpaid, but they're all very good coaches, and they know all the components of the strokes. So I would say that the club here has got Christina Hall is one of my top coaches in Canada in the developmental area. You need the developmental coaches because the first coach of a player's life is the most important thing that you can have. I mean, if you're a good player, you're not necessarily a good coach because you're teaching something they can't do yet. So you have to know how to do it. And we have at least 4 to 6 to maybe even 10 coaches at the moment in the Brantford area that can teach to a very high level, but also knows all about the components at the lower level. So it should be good if we have the facility.
Are there any young prospects right now for provincial, national, or potentially Olympic teams?
Well, at 79, I'm now 81. At 79, I just taught 2 players, age 13 and 12. And the 13-year-old just won the Canadian Championships, and the 12-year-old is now number 3 in Canada, and she's only just 12. Yes, we have some upcoming possibilities, but then again, it all depends on the player and their goals and what they want and how much they have. First of all, to be a top Olympian, as you suggest, you have to have some talent, and you have to have a facility that will enable you to play 5 to 6 times a week. And then you have to have parents who are willing to give up bingo to take you to the tournaments. And then you have to have a coach who is able to take you to that level. And then lastly, you can't be on welfare. So those 5 things are very important if you want to be a top Olympian. But just to be anything else, to be the best you can be, has nothing to do with being an Olympian. If it's the best you can do, that's the ultimate in achievement. And if it's just to win one little tournament in your school, that's the ultimate achievement, if that's the best you can do. And so therefore, the student has to have a realistic idea of where and what they want to do in order to progress along. If they feel that they have the potential to go further, and further and further and further, they have to have those 5 things. Because just to go to the Olympics, you have to play in at least 10 different countries to get a top ranking. You have to be ranked in the top 20 in the world. And we've had 3 Olympians do that. But not all my players made it to the top, but not all of them had the desire to do that. A lot of them won their school, university, and college championships, or at least made their teams. And my goal was that's what they do. They make their teams, and what they want to do something else, that's their business. That's what they have to do, and they have to spend all the time and the money and everything that goes with it.
Okay, great. What advice would you share with a young aspiring athlete?
Oh, to do the best that you can do, whether it's the best in the world or it's the best that you can do. It's the ultimate achievement. But you have to put work in to get some work out. In order to achieve, you have to give, and you have to give of yourself and your time you can't go off to a concert somewhere when you're supposed to be practicing home and somewhere. I mean, you have to give up certain things in order to achieve what your goals are. So your goal has to be achievable. And if you think you can't make it, then choose a smaller goal and make it. Make your goals little by little, and then achievement occurs. There is a time that comes when you know that you just don't have the money. Normally it's the money. I've had at least 10 top international world champions that could have been, but couldn't be because of money. And that's sad, but it's the way it is. It's all the way it is.
Edith, what do you think of the badminton facilities in the Brantford area?
Well, in the Brantford area, big surprise. Little Brantford, at the time, is 80 to 90,000, beats every other city in Canada right now because of the coaching and the Parks and Rec and School Board letting us have the gym for 4 nights a week. We have it 3 nights, and then 1 during the week they used to let us have. Now we're lucky if we get 2 days a week to play, and we're bumped off the calendar by basketball, because there's always a big demand for basketball and volleyball, and we don't get a chance to practice enough. Facilities here are very, very poor in the community centers. Usually the ceiling is not high enough, the lights are poor, you know, the lines aren't right on, and basketball lines are all over the place, and we really don't have a facility just for badminton. Now, they have a facilities just for squash, but not for badminton. They have facilities just for tennis, but not for badminton. And unfortunately, badminton, or fortunately for badminton, it is considered right now the 2nd most participated sport in the whole world. That includes an awful lot in China and Asia and Malaysia and Indonesia and Europe and England. They have millions of badminton players. Canada doesn't have that many. We have, when our players get better and get good, they migrate to Europe and learn and then come back and win everything here. So we just don't have the facilities in Brantford, very poor facilities. There's none in Hamilton, there's none in Dundas, there is in Toronto, and there is in Markham, there is in Kitchener and Woodstock and Stratford, but not Brantford. And very often we have to go to these other places to play when they take away our courts, and it's just not fair that we give up our courts at a time when it's like not being able to practice your piano when you've got a test on the next day. Well, that's what they do to us all the time. And so therefore it's amazing that little Brantford has had so many champions come out of here. But it is because of the Parks and Rec and the school board, who have really, in the past years, and not so much now, but in the past years, supported us to the nth degree.
But I also think it's a testament to your coaching abilities and your training manuals that you've developed, and all the coaches you've developed around you. And that has to have a big influence on.
Oh, well, the coaching is most important. The most important coach in the whole world is that athlete's first coach. And I deal a lot with the basics, and I'm a master course conductor for Badminton Canada, and I know all the coaches across Canada, and none of them coach by the component method. And mine is the component method, and that's why the manual. And I was asked, please write something that tells us what you do. As I say, this one was a former Canadian champion. He asked me, why is it your players all have such good stroke production, Edith? What trick do you use? And I just about fell over, because it's not a trick, it's just knowing the biomechanic components, and that's what's in the book and in the video, is the components. And then 90% of coaches don't know the components. They know how to play, and boy do they ever. I mean, it's gorgeous. But if you can't take a beginner and show them that component, you're teaching them way in advanced stuff, and they can't do it. And they end up doing it all wrong because they haven't taken grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. They immediately are taught grades 6 and 7 and 8, so to speak. So that's what makes a big difference in our club, is that we teach the basics, right? And they have to be good before you advance. To take a little player and put him in with a big gun and expect him to do well, it deflates them, and sometimes it makes them feel important they're playing with a very big gun. Well, of course, who wouldn't be inflated playing with Wayne Gretzky, okay? But I mean, it's a developmental thing that you have to be careful of. Make sure they develop at this stage and this way up. And that's one thing that most coaches don't do. They just go here and there and there. You can do this and I'll do that, but you haven't even got that one in correctly or accurately or consistent. And then you give them something new. I mean, that's not the way you coach. You coach and make sure they're doing it correctly before you move them on to grade 2, grade 3, grade 4.